What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about these two watches from Coros. This is the Coros Apex Pro versus the Coros Apex. What's the difference? Let's find out. Alright guys, so Coros did send over these watches for me to do a review of, but we had no problem with us to do a positive or negative review. These are my own thoughts on these watches, and this is not really a review. I will have individual reviews of both these watches on my channel, and you can find them over here. So let's talk about what's the difference between these two watches, and the first thing that we have to talk about is the price. So over here on the left side, this is the green watch, this is the Apex Pro, and then over here on the right side, this is the Apex. So this is just the Apex. And the price difference between these two is $150. So the Apex Pro is going to cost you $499.99 compared to the Apex, which is going to cost you $349.99. So that's a price difference of $150. So if you are looking for a bargain and not wanting to spend a bunch of money on a watch, the Apex is going to be the watch for you just because it is going to be a cheaper watch compared to the Apex Pro. But does that price difference really make a big difference in the watch? Let's go find out what else is different in these watches. So the screen size is the same over here. So you can see the screen size is the same. They are both 1.2 inches. 240 by 240. The next thing that's going to be a big difference is going to be the etching on the glass. So the Apex Pro is a lot cleaner. The regular Apex does have like this Coros logo over here and then these little other things over here. I do like the cleaner look of the Coros Apex Pro compared to the Apex for sure. And then if you look to the side over here, you will notice that the Apex Pro has more buttons. It has two buttons on either side of the dial, and of course it does have that dial that Coros is known for. And on the Apex, it only has one button over here. So what does this top button do? The top button is for the light. So if you want to turn on the light, you would just press that top button over here. On the Apex, you would just press the bottom button over here to turn on the light. And I've said this previously in the review of the Apex. I think that the light looks a lot better and brighter on the Apex Pro compared to the Apex. So you can see right there, there's a little bit of difference. Let's get that glare out there, but it is definitely a lot brighter on the Apex Pro compared to the Apex. The buttons over here on the Apex Pro are also made for more rugged usage. So if you have thick gloves, the dial over here is going to be a lot easier to mess with if you are using this Apex Pro compared to the regular Apex. It's a more smoother dial. The crown isn't so big. You can see over here there is a lot more to grip over here on the Apex Pro compared to the Apex. This is a smoother button over there. So both of these watches do have titanium alloy around the bezel, and then the body is made out of aluminum on both these watches. And then you turn it to the back, you can definitely see that the charging port is on different locations on the Pro versus the Apex, and there's a lot more sensors over here on the Pro compared to the Apex. So what are these sensors? What do they do? So basically, these extra sensor is for 24/7 blood oxygen monitoring at high altitudes. The Apex does not have this. The Pro does have this. So if you want to measure your pulse ox, your blood oxygen at high levels, the Pro is going to be the one for you because the Apex will not have any PO2 monitoring on their watch. It's just going to have the heart rate monitor that you see right there. And then with these watches, we do have to talk about battery life. The battery life is going to be one of the big things that really does differentiate the Pro versus the Apex. Is a 5-hour difference in GPS use. So in full GPS mode, the Pro will go 40 hours compared to the Apex. The Apex will only go 35 hours. Both of them, 35 hours or 40 hours, is going to be a ton of battery life. I think that's really a non-factor. I really don't know an instance where a 5-hour difference in battery life, especially if you're going over 30 hours, is going to be a big difference. Maybe if you are doing 100 mile and you want to get that 35-hour time limit, you'll be more safe in knowing that you have 40 hours of GPS usage, but really 35 hours versus 40 hours is not a big thing. On Ultra Max mode, both these watches have 100 hours of GPS, and then on regular use, they both also have 30 days of battery life. So you will not need to charge your batteries. These watches are great watches to bring on vacation, especially if you're going for 7 to 10 days on vacation. You will not need to bring a charger. These watches will last you forever. Like I said, it'll last you 30 days of regular use. Other than that, these watches are pretty much identical. The Pro does have a touchscreen, which to be honest, I really never use it. All right, so if you go to your map mode, you can actually move this little map here. This is literally the only thing that this touchscreen is used for. It's not used for anything other than when you are in map mode. Compared to on the Apex, this would basically zoom in on the map, so you could only do that. You can't move this by touchscreen. So if you are lost out in the wilderness, probably this one's gonna be a little better for you because you can, you know, find the map your way. You can find the map whatever way you want to. So that's the only thing that's used for the zoom feature and the touchscreen for the map. But other than that, there's really not much use for the touchscreen on the Apex Pro other than that. So if that feature is useful for you, definitely go for the Apex Pro. All right, so the last thing that is difference between these two watches is going to be the weight. The weight on the Pro is going to be 59 grams compared to the Apex, which is going to be 55.3 grams. So there's a little bit of difference with that, but really pretty negligible. Everything else is the same. The water resistance is the same at about 10 atmospheres. Working temperature is all the same. Charging time is the same. Everything is the same except for basically the looks, the touchscreen, the ability to have pulse ox on it, and there is an altitude mode where it will tell you when you are acclimatized to the altitude depending on what level you are. So this watch will also have that. So for extreme mountaineering, maybe the Pro is also going to be the better watch for you if you do need that type of data. All right, so which watch do I like better? I think for the looks, for sure, I do like the Apex Pro. The look of it just looks a little bit better, but basically almost the same. I do like the bigger dial over here. It just looks a lot more premium compared to the Apex, but generally they're the same watch. Who is the Apex Pro for? I think the Apex Pro is going to be for those who are doing mountaineering, who want to know if they're acclimated to the altitude, who wants that extra 5 hours of battery life, and who needs to know their pulse ox at all times. This is going to be something that's more towards those type of people. And then the Apex, man, I'm telling you, it's almost the same watch. It just doesn't have that touchscreen, doesn't have pulse ox, and it doesn't have that mountaineering mode, but pretty much the same watch. Which one would I get? I think for me, I would definitely get the Apex. The Apex is going to be the watch that is $150 cheaper when you compare it to the Pro. And I don't need all that other stuff. It does have 35 days of GPS use, 30 days of regular use. So the Apex is going to be a solid watch. For $150 more, I don't think I would spend that just to get those extra features that I honestly probably wouldn't use. So for me, the winner on this is going to be the Apex. This is going to be the watch that I would want to get, especially since they do update both these watches with all the latest firmware. The Apex is pretty much the same watch as the Apex Pro, just a little bit of features that are missing, but pretty much same watch. Apex is going to be the winner for me. Alright guys, hope you guys found this comparison of the Apex Pro versus the Apex useful. If you guys did, make sure to give me a thumbs up, give my video a like, and if you are here for the first time, think about subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.